Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Living in Life. This evening with Rukia Khatun.
That's me. And Sajid Varda. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And make sure you stay tuned because we have a great show lined up just for you.
Oh, absolutely. And we have got some interesting guests and a variety of stories from different parts of the world.
Yes, our first guests are a group of friends who wanted to help support the Syrian refugees. So they came together and they have made a trip to Lesbos and they make regular visits to Dunkirk to continue the support. So keep a lookout for them.
And our second guest creates content for children that educate them about the world we live in. And she'll be giving away her new children's book to one lucky person on Twitter. So we've asked a question on Twitter and the first user who tweets in with the right answer wins. So get tweeting now.
Great. Will you be tweeting?
No.
OK. End of
I'm
that
not a
then.
child. I don't read children. Oh, although I love children's books. So
You can
to be fair,
you're never too old enough for children's book.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, that gives away what I do. Oh, come on, the Harry Potter series, you know, come on.
I don't read Harry Potter.
Okay.
The films are good, though.
Oh, I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
Can't stand
I like
the
Lord
films.
of the Rings. Very good.
Have you read the book?
Yes. Years ago when I was very, very
I'm
little.
impressed. I am
Thank
impressed.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I was
But
about 3, I think I was.
Oh, wow. We've got child genius here. Doesn't read children's books, though. Good on ya. Anyhow, for now, before we get started with our guests, it's time for our first story of the evening. And we're following the story of some very charitable people who are helping many others. Men who work at sea have joined forces with humanitarian workers to help migrants in the Mediterranean Sea safely to the Italian port. Medical assistance, food and water are all provided on board for the migrants' onward journey with the team. Have a look at this.
They are unlikely members of the same crew. Career seamen for whom it was initially just another job, and landlubber humanitarian workers trying to make the world a better place. But together, aboard the MS Aquarius, they get the job done. Since it joined the international search and rescue operation of Libya in February, the boat chartered by medical charity MSF and French NGO SOS Méditerranée has safely delivered some 1,500 migrants to Italian ports. Once the property of the German Coast Guard, the Aquarius switched to oil prospection in 2009, surveying prospective fields from Nigeria to the Arctic. Now it is stuffed full of life jackets, blankets, nutrition packs and bottles of water. On the deck, SOS Méditerranée volunteers rotate the watch. Several of them are merchant seamen themselves, a mix of keen youngsters and salty old sea dogs. Most have given up 3 to 6 weeks of holiday time to help out. Down several narrow flights of steps, the MSF medical team, a doctor, midwife, 2 nurses and 2 technicians prepare to take charge of rescued migrants who will be spending anything from a few hours to several days on board. Unlike the SOS Méditerranée crew, most of them had never set foot on the boat before, but can call on vast reserves of experience acquired in humanitarian hotspots from the Ebola clinics of West Africa to the earthquake-ravaged mountains of Nepal. The boat's skipper is Alexander Moras, a 45-year-old Belarusian with a dry sense of humour. He is the point man who receives instructions from Italy's Coast Guard and directs operations.
It's normally depends on the weather, depends on the amount of people, depends on the condition of person on board, if it's some injured person or which not able to move, and we have to use stretchers. This will take longer time. But normally it's take to rescue one rubber boat with about 120 person on board. It's 1 hour.
Asked if the presence of rescue boats is only encouraging people traffickers to send their human cargoes to sea, the skipper adopts the same line as a humanitarian contingent on board.
I was working before on the cargo vessel, then I'm working already for this company for 7 years for this company on the research vessels. Yes, of course, it's a big difference between what I do before and what I'm doing now. Yeah. I even cannot explain it exactly, but let's say my feeling that I'm doing something good.
The only question is, if we were not here, how many more would die?
Well, now it's time to introduce our first guest for this evening. Insaaf are a group based in London that supports the refugees by travelling regularly to refugee camps to offer aid and support. Feeling inspired by what they achieved in their first visit to Dunkirk, France, they went back to Dunkirk and then on to Lesbos in Greece. Here to raise awareness and to share with us their experiences, please welcome Nazmia, Sofiane and Shamina. Is that right?
And
Shamima.
I believe it's Yassine that's with us today. And not
Is it Yassine?
Sofiane, yeah.
OK, well, there you go. I've changed your names. I hope you're happy. Jazakallah, lovely to have you.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome. Should we go back to the beginning? Where did you guys come together and how did you come together?
So basically, we are a group of friends. We've been knowing each other for years. We are mainly from France, so professionals from France who've been working in London for years. Shamima, I know Shamima from school. We're learning Arabic together. So we all knew each other from the beginning. And the reason why we started this initiative is because we felt that we started becoming numb to the conditions of the refugees. We really wanted to do something about their conditions. Going on the field and showing our support to them. And we started with the first initiative to Dunkirk, which is near Calais in the north of France. And that was because we realized that refugees were at our doorstep. They were at our, they were really near us and we couldn't ignore that. So rather than going online, clicking on a button to make a donation, we thought, let's take some time, a weekend, and raise some funds and buy some, aids, the most needed aids, clothing, food, tents and sleeping bags. We ended up in Dunkirk, where we were very shocked about the conditions. It was actually worse than what we expected. Wow. People were living in a muddy field. Lots of, they had tents that were very damp by the humidity, and it was very muddy anyway. So it was very heartbreaking to see the conditions they used to live in. And we decided not to stop there. And we went there again, again, the same type of needs. Because we realized that more and more people were coming to the camp, so it was never enough.
Are you able to tell us maybe some of the stories of the people that you met there?
Yes, there were mainly people coming from Iraq.
In Dunkirk?
In Dunkirk, yes. And there were families coming from Iran and some from Syria as well, a minority. And they were desperate to leave the camp because of the conditions. It wasn't what they expected either. So we could see a loss of hope as well. They were still very happy about the donations we used to make. They were very, satisfied about it and grateful. But we could tell that the conditions they live in was very shocking to them as well. They never expected to live in such conditions in a country like France.
What made you then go from France and the brilliant work that you're doing in France to then go over to Greece, Yassine?
Well, I think none of us made any plan to do that initially. Initially, we only wanted to. It was meant to be maybe a one-off, but because of the news and the news that were coming from France, we had the aspiration to go and help the people that were, as Nazmia said, at our doorstep. And a friend and mentor of us helped us and gave us some advice, shared his experience with us, and he had been to Greece. So he shared that experience as well, and that really had an impact on us. And we realised that some people were actually losing their lives trying to come across and reach, escape war and provide safety to their families. So in Dunkirk, conditions were really terrible, but nobody was dying. Whereas in Greece, people were coming by the thousands in dinghies across the water, and some of them lose their life.
Well, this just recently, actually, was it just a day or so ago, over 700 just lost their lives as well.
So in the Mediterranean.
In the Mediterranean, yes. Shamima, so tell us about your involvement. Was it your friends who said to you, "Hey, Shamima, let's go over and help out"?
I was actually just asking questions to Nazmia about what you guys are doing, and then I saw pictures once they came, and I was like, I can't believe this is happening, to be honest. I mean, France is our neighbouring country, so for it to be happening just so close to home, it's quite devastating. And then when we went to Greece, it was, I mean, and then we decided, okay, what should I do? Should I go with them? Should I not? And then I took the initiative, okay, let's try and do something, let's make a difference. And then we ended up in Greece, and the first day was absolute chaos.
Why was it chaos? What happened?
Because, like, the first day, the legislations changed, where Turkey accepted the deal, and a lot of refugees that had been staying in Greece, they were being shipped off to north of Greece. That's what they were told. And then we were, because on that was the very first day. I mean, we were only there for a few hours, and then I remember when we went to dinner, we literally ordered our food, and right at the very moment, once we just finished our ordering, we got a message saying, we need to leave, there's boats coming in. And from the very first boat, it was absolutely hectic. I had like 6 or 7 boats throughout the entire night, all the way up to like 6 o'clock in the morning.
And how many people would be on average on each boat?
On average, it would probably, for a 20-person dinghy boat, it would be at least 60, 70 people.
And what would be the mix between adults and children?
It would be a huge mix. There was lots of kids. There were, like, it was because there were people getting off boats. There was children that couldn't find their parents because it was so many people that are actually stuck in these dinghies, trying to get out, trying to find their families. And obviously, they've come through such harsh conditions, and to lose their family once they get to their safe place, it's quite devastating for them. So that's why they're always crying, or like they're constantly searching for their mum or their dad. So. It's quite hard.
Yeah, and do you remember that the majority was ladies? It was very shocking to see 70% of the diggings were full of ladies, actually.
Did
Young
that help
women,
then,
pregnant
having women like yourself there on the shore? But I mean, it's not the only thing you did many other things. Did it help having Muslim women, I guess, there as well?
Absolutely. I mean, it was, first of all, we were shocked by the fact that there were not many Muslim groups, organizations there present.
This is how long ago?
That was in March.
In March of this year.
We're planning to return, inshallah, in August. It was such a relief for the Muslim sisters who used to see us with hijab. Actually, volunteers used to think we are refugees. They used to offer
they be giving you food and shelter?
They used to offer us drinks, and they used to offer us emergency blankets because they used to think we're cold and holding our children. And we had to nicely and politely explain to them that we're not refugees, we're just volunteers like them.
Wouldn't that be a worry, though, when you're there trying to come back home? Because them not thinking that you are a refugee trying to smuggle yourself out.
Absolutely, especially during that time, because the camps that were in the island were turned into detention camps. So they would automatically take all the refugees to those detention camps kept by the police and the army. So we had that huge risk, but we were always making sure we had our IVs jackets were on duty.
Good.
Yassine, did you ever get mistaken for a refugee?
Actually, I did, I think, because with my wife, we did a short. We went to the Idomeni camp, which was until recently the biggest refugee camp in Europe, with I think about 12,000 people parked there.
There's a lot we need to ask you guys because this is such a big area and a big topic. But do stay with us because we have many more questions for you.
Yeah, we'll definitely ask you a bit more about Idomeni in a bit. But for now, we do need to take a quick break. But before we go, we have another story for you from India. A village near Delhi has been given electricity for the very first time. This life-changing event happened for the residents, and it's happening thanks to the government scheme providing power to 18,000 villages across this country. What a great story. Take a look at this.
Anandpur, a village located 145 miles from Delhi, is about to get electricity for the first time. A life-changing event for its 120 residents. Tasks many take for granted, such as charging a cell phone, are about to get a lot easier for people here.
It needs at least 2 to 3 hours to charge, but when we go to work, they won't allow us to come and charge our phone. And when we come back at night after a hard day of work, we eat and sleep, and then in the morning at 8 a.m, we leave once again.
Urmila Devi grew up in a village with electricity. She arrived here after her wedding 35 years ago and had to adjust to a new life.
It's tough without electricity. Insects fall in and it's difficult to cook. That's why I have to cook everything before sunset. I have to finish everything before that.
This is Anandpur's last day without electricity. A government scheme to provide power to 18,000 villages is delivering. But many of these places are remote, and it has been a real challenge for the engineers employed to connect them.
A couple of my Gram Vidyut Abhyantas were kidnapped by the so-called left-wing extremist elements. Of course, we got them released. A couple of them had been beaten up also by the local people, some local people who were opposed to it. So challenges were huge.
Anandpur finally lights up. 18 of its 25 households now have electricity. The rest rejected it for fear of not being able to afford the $1 to $2 monthly bill. Urmila Devi is already making plans for the future.
We'll get electrical appliances, so we'll get entertained. We used to sleep at 7 p.m. Now that we have a TV, we'll pass time watching it and sleep a little later.
As night falls, residents here ready themselves for new opportunities that come with having electricity.
Coming up after the break. Known for producing perfume and its therapeutic properties, the damask rose is a beautiful historic flower. But in the fields of the Syrian capital, the petals are falling as production of the rose is becoming difficult due to war, causing issues for both the farmers and the traders. The rare hatchings of olms, underwater predators, are breathing life into the tales that dragons existed. The mysterious eel-like species are extremely rare and they only breed once a decade. The olms live in caves and researchers believe they have been living there for billions of years. This month, visitors from around the world will make their way to a cave in Slovenia to witness the hatchings of these creatures. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Living the Life. We've been chatting to a very inspirational group of people here about their experiences helping the refugees in Lesbos and France, and we'll be catching up with them a bit later on in the show.
Yes, we will be. But before we introduce our next guest, we have another story from around the world. The damask rose is a flower with a rich history and was featured in Shakespeare. Shakespeare, amazing.
Was it now?
It was, and I know this, of course, you know. Known for producing perfumes and cosmetics, the roses in Syria have been out of bloom and out of sight due to the war there. Have a look at this.
In this village, 60 kilometers north of Damascus, farmers are harvesting a staple of Syria's cultural heritage, the damask rose. This 30-petaled flower produces a heady scented oil renowned the world over. But the conflict ravaging the country since 2011 has hit the industry hard. The tradition of picking the crop has faded as entire families fled the fighting between regime and rebel groups, cutting land that can be cultivated by half.
Production in most crops has dropped from 4 tons to 2 tons because the flowers need continuous care and maintenance. And we couldn't tend to them since we were not able to reach certain fields during the war.
Thanks to its rich and smooth scent, the damask rose is widely used to produce essential oils and cosmetics. And rose water is used across the Middle East as a refreshing drink, to flavor oriental sweets, to scent mosques, and even to bestow luck at weddings.
The distillation and production of rose water has been heavily influenced by the crisis and war affecting Syria. In recent years, I would produce 10 tons of rose water here. This year, I don't expect to produce more than 2 tons.
In and around Damascus, the rose used to adorn gardens, balconies and roadsides, almost a national symbol for residents. But its presence and smell are now fading. Perfumeries in the old town have even had to outsource.
The cost of production of the damask rose has soared in Syria, so the rose is now being cultivated abroad. We wish we could produce it here, but it's a little complicated and the cost is too high.
Exported to Europe since the time of the Crusades, the flower is also cultivated in countries including France, Morocco, Iran and Turkey. For both farmers and traders, its decline is a symbol of the agony of a people trapped by a conflict that has killed more than 270,000 people and forced millions more to flee their homes.
That's a great story. It's a shame, though.
Yeah.
How a beautiful rose in Syria now, which occurs naturally, now has to be grown in another country.
I'd never ever thought about the effect of war on the natural sort of plantation, if you will. So that's...
Well, forget that. What about the people? I mean,
yeah, of course. No, don't get me wrong.
Of course, it affects everything. Absolutely.
I guess I never think
Industry,
about beyond
agriculture.
Yeah, all of it.
The works.
Yeah,
I don't know how long it's going to take to get Syria back on its feet
very
again.
Soon.
Hopefully soon, inshallah.
Hope
it gets resolved. Absolutely. Yes. Well, hey, it's now time for our second guest. Koolamundo is not what Fonzie used to say. It's a media platform aimed at children and the young to inform and educate them about the world we live in. Now, the founder of this service grew up around the globe, surrounded by different people and cultures, and was inspired by her experiences. She decided to develop a character to educate and entertain the young generation, sharing her love for the world through creative means. And she has created a new book, and one of you lucky winners can win a copy just by answering the following question.
Do we know what the question is? I don't think
you know what the question is, do I look good in red?
No.
Does anyone answer? Let's please welcome Kimberley, Kleczka. Is that
Kleczka.
Kleczka.
I know, it's a mouthful. I married into that, trust me.
Did you?
Yeah, Welsh is a lot easier.
It is. Kleczka is, where does that originate from?
It's a Polish name, but my husband's American, so it's American-Polish.
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah.
My goodness.
Koolamundo.
So we need to find out what this question is that's being posed on Twitter. We will find out ever so shortly. Kimberley?
I think the whole point is that we don't know. So
What do you
people
mean?
have to go on Twitter. They have to find out. They have to work a little bit.
Yeah, I know, but I'd like to know what the question is.
All right.
Just out of interest. So I might do a bit something here and enter, you say.
Now we're getting to the bottom of it. I've got you.
Yes, well, Kimberley, lovely to have you
Yes, thank
here.
you so much for inviting me.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Now you've got to earn your crust. Kimberley, you
Yes.
started off in media and entertainment, didn't you? Tell us about
Many
that.
moons ago, yes. Do you really want to know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Giving my age away.
No.
In 1984, I moved to America after getting married to my wonderful Marine husband. And I actually studied media, communications, journalism. And I was at the right place at the right time because I was in California with a British accent. And in those days, they liked the British accent.
They still do.
Yeah, they think you're so educated in America.
Absolutely.
You can say whatever you want.
But it's not difficult to sound educated. You know what I mean? Say no more, say no more.
Exactly.
You're doing a lot of work today, aren't you?
So I got to work at Entertainment Tonight as an intern and many different things, and I had a similar kind of setup like this, like a lounge show for 2 or 3 years until I fell pregnant with my first, and then I did a lot of things behind the scenes.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you were doing voiceovers as well?
I do.
Did you actually act as well, or was it just?
I did many
Did
years
you?
ago.
What did you do?
Yes.
I'm interested.
I did more commercials. Like I did a Vonage commercial,
Vonage,
and I did a lot of kind of different bits and pieces for theatre and that. But it was more voiceover stuff. I did more than anything, and of course presenting.
So how did you go from that and all the media side of things to creating Koolamundo? I think you said it better. And then on to writing children's books.
Well, because I've travelled around the world, I've lived in 9 different countries and travelled to 60-odd countries, I saw all the different children and the cultures and how wonderful I thought it would be to create a character where we can all come together. And so that's where a look came into the world. And he's a bird that travels around the world.
We've got a picture of this bird. What the bird is called?
A look.
A look?
Yes.
Let's take a look at a look.
There's 2 of them.
Look at that. Hey, which one's a look?
A look is the male.
And
Luna is the female.
Now, does a look actually, is that a beard on a look?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Mashallah, brother.
Mashallah. So is he a recent convert to Islam, I'm assuming?
It shows he's a male.
He's a male. Oh, right,
You have to
I
show
see.
this bit, you
Yes,
know.
of course.
And did you draw him yourself, or?
I'm actually using a wonderful lady who's out of India that does it, Apurva, and I actually got to go to her wedding last year. She had a Hindi wedding, so it was really interesting. I got to actually see her for the first time. Wonderful. All we've done is spoken over online and spoken to each other on the telephone. That's been it.
So tell us about the themes of your books. I see Luke. He's dancing in France. There's a funny food book, and there's a Luke and a cow.
Well,
so tell us a bit about that.
Well, the cow, actually, we have a house in France, and I just fell in love with the cows. You know, they got these long eyelashes, and they kind of look at you, and you're like, oh, my gosh. So I started writing this poem. My husband said to me, why don't you make that into a children's book? This is how it all came about. This is how Koolamundo came about. Because I was just going to write stories for children without the rhyming. And so that's how she came into our life.
I also love cows
They
when they're
are
on my
lovely.
barbecue. Sizzle! Sizzle! Sizzle, cow!
Not like that.
That's one way to receive them.
Absolutely.
How have they been received around the world and to the different people that have read the books?
It's been doing quite well, actually, because, you know, when you first start writing, you're like, how are people going to take it, you know? But we've been getting some really great comments, and also every book has a song that goes with it, and there's also a read-along video, and there's a lot that goes into it.
As well as being entertained, the whole sort of...
edutainment as well, and it's in many different languages. My next one I'm conquering is simplified Arabic.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's going to be the next thing I
So
will start working on.
a Luke hosts television show.
Oh, there we go.
Do that.
He could sit right next to you.
No, absolutely. I bet Luke would do really, really well. So tell us, in terms of how do you pick a topic that you're going to be talking about in your book?
The new one that I've done, which is Visit a Look's Cool Place in Outer Space, because he comes from outer space. I really probably should have started with that one. I did things kind of backwards a little bit, but...
It's like the movies.
Exactly. So I'm doing that one, and I've just finished that one. It's coming out. And what it is every country he goes to, he has a goal. He has a reason for going there. Like, for instance, he's dancing in France. His whole thing is he wanted to do some cool street dancing in France. So he had to go, so what am I going to do? He looks through his book. He's got this special travel book, and he says, where am I going to? And he looks at his magical bead. OK, I'm off to France. I'm going to learn how to dance. So there's always a goal at the end for the children.
Does he always take into account that in some countries there's a certain way of behaving?
He does.
Yes,
it's very important.
Because if you tried that in maybe a Middle Eastern country, it may not go down as well.
No, it won't. Exactly. Yes. No, that will, the cultural thing, and that's what happens. That's what's really great when you've travelled to different countries and you've lived all over the place.
Although, funnily enough, I saw a video the other day of people getting arrested in America for dancing.
Really?
Yeah, so it's not just the Middle East, funnily enough.
It's not.
It's lovely books. They're really well ended, very, very colourful as well.
Thank you.
You're talking about travelling. You lovely ladies have been travelling and doing a really, really, towards a really, really good cause. And actually, some of the things you've been doing is entertaining children and finding something for the young children in the camps to do. Just tell us a little bit about that, and will this book be well received with them?
Yes, why not? Actually, it's a great idea. Maybe we should do a partnership.
I would love to.
I'd
love to send you some books.
Yeah, we noticed that there are a few volunteers that are going there, lots of NGOs that provide food, shelter, clothing, but not necessarily entertainment or occupation activities to the children. So we thought that because we went with a large team of about 12 people, we thought, why not, spend a few days just, doing some drawing with the kids and playing. And we had the custody of a warehouse that was full of aid, and we found boxes of toys. So we just, took those boxes of toys and distributed them to the camps, and it just turned the camp to another place.
It's a completely different atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's lovely.
And Kimberley, you know all about changing the atmosphere using story.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. In fact, I've already donated. I do donations, actually, and I do in-kind donations with books. And also, every book that gets sold, I put a certain percentage of money aside, and then I actually send it to charities that are involved with children. I did the Philippines, I did one for India, and I would love to, please, let's talk.
It's amazing.
I'd love to do that.
We were talking about taking books with us next time, so it's amazing.
Well, no worries.
When you have the right intention, God makes it
Your books are translated in all different languages as well, aren't you?
Yes, they are. Yes, I've got French, I've got Italian, I've got German, Dutch.
Are these translating over to animation, live animation?
Live animation is well, I am doing animation this year.
You
I'm actually going to start doing that. Will be my next project, which will start in June. And we're going to start with the Koolamundo song. Wow. Koolamundo is a cool, cool world. So that will be the first one, and then...
Amazing. Now, of course, our viewers at home can get their hands on one of these books, can't they?
Yes, they can.
And
what is the question?
Do we know now?
Yes, we do.
Go on.
Old MacDonald had a farm is a famous what?
It's a famous what?
I think I know. It's a place where you can get sizzly steaks. Honestly.
No, no. Anyhow, on that note, Old MacDonald has a farm with animals that go E-I-E-I-O. They're not there for your plate. Yeah, don't ruin my childhood, Sajid.
There's always time.
No. Anyhow, we're off for another quick break before Mr. MacDonald here has his way with MacDonald's farm. But before we go, we are going to Slovenia, where this month people from around the world will pay a visit to a cave to witness the hatchings of some baby dragons. The species are very rare, and the hatchings of these creatures are fueling the myth about dragons that existed before. Have a look at this.
The strange, slithery creatures inside Slovenia's Postojna cave were once considered living proof that dragons existed, prompting locals to give it a wide berth. Now, large crowds from all over the world queue up to witness the extremely rare hatching of the mysterious olms, ancient underwater predators, which can live up to 100 years and only breed once in a decade. Found primarily in Balkan cave rivers, the protected eel-like species has been living in the world-famous Postojna cave 50 kilometers southwest of the capital, Ljubljana, for what researchers say is millions of years.
The caves are in an environment where you don't have much food. You must be able to survive long periods of time without eating anything, and this is why, let's say in case of the olm, this means it can reach an age up to 100 years and it can survive around 10 years without eating anything.
In early June, the tourist attraction is set to become one of the first ever human-controlled environments to breed 24 of the cave salamanders.
It's not usual for the olms to breed. They are true cave animals, and they breed every, let's say, 6 to 10 years. It depends, so it's not going on every day. These eggs you are going to see, or you saw, are the only eggs at the moment people can observe, because nobody ever found the eggs of the olm in nature. If we are lucky and we have some baby dragons, it will take years for them to grow. It will take them around 10 to 15 years to reach adult size. It's not something that happens overnight.
Inside a large hall, the mother and her precious spawn are kept in complete darkness in a covered tank under the continuous watch of night vision cameras. On a nearby television screen, visitors can see tiny translucent eggs spread over a rock. From time to time, one of the embryos stirs ever so slightly. The biologists hope that the new arrivals will help to shed fresh light on the enigmatic creature, which has become a national symbol and even featured on Slovenia's currency before the euro was introduced. While locals now fondly talk of their baby dragons, people for centuries were too afraid to even go near the cave. During winter, heavy rains would wash out the wriggly larvae from the grotto as it lay surrounded by a sea of thick fog, according to 17th century folk tales. Reaching a maximum length of 35 centimeters, the blind animal with its 4 tiny limbs is a far cry from the scary monsters conjured up in national folklore.
Coming up after the break. A group of disabled women in Gaza are shooting hoops with the aim to form a Paralympic basketball team. An American basketball player who has been coaching people from several countries was on board to give support and advice. The team have faced challenges, but with the support of their coach and an international organisation, the team could well be on their way to a sporting future. Stay tuned to find out more.
Welcome back to Living the Live. We have had an amazing show this evening with some wonderful guests and people who are making a real difference. Would you not agree, Rakia?
I would 100% agree with you, Sajid.
Good.
Yes. Before we wrap up with our guests, we have our last story for today's show, and we have an inspiration one to go along with today's theme. Disabled women in Gaza are hoping to form a Paralympic basketball team. Despite cultural issues they face, these women are determined to achieve their sporting goals, and I support them fully. Yeah! Let's have a look at this.
In front of a gym's empty bleachers, a group of veiled women in wheelchairs threw passes to one another, practicing to form a female Paralympic basketball team in the Gaza Strip. As the women practiced, they were given advice and encouragement from Jess Marked, an American who began playing wheelchair basketball following a spinal cord injury when he was 19. Marked has coached players in a range of countries, including Afghanistan, India and Cambodia.
I actually see them as very similar to some of the teams I've coached in other countries in the past. I've coached women in Afghanistan, in Cambodia, in India, and all of them are dealing with many of the same challenges that these women in Gaza are dealing with, that there is social pressure that sometimes says that women should not play sports.
In Gaza, at the invitation of the International Committee of the Red Cross, he is overseeing 115 players, both men and women, over the course of 3 weeks. The programme has particular relevance in the Hamas-run Gaza Strip, which has seen 3 wars with Israel since 2008. More than 75,000 Gazans out of a population of 1.9 million are physically or visually disabled, according to the International Committee of the Red Cross. Of those, a third are wounded by war. Paralympic teams are being slowly created. The ICRC provided 70 wheelchairs to 8 teams this year.
I think the biggest obstacles right now are just these girls getting the kind of support they need, that the sporting organizations, the clubs are giving them the opportunities to play on a regular basis, that they are getting the types of equipment that they need to become good players, and that their families and the rest of the community are supporting them.
Money shortages have, however, hampered their efforts, while cultural expectations of women have also been an obstacle.
Great story.
That's fantastic.
I love it.
This is something which you know quite a lot about, don't you?
I do.
We'll talk about it another time. Right, let's go back to Insaaf, a wonderful guest who's doing phenomenal work with the refugees. Tell us, how can people get involved with what you're doing?
So we definitely need lots of help. We need manpower to help with the distribution of aid. It could be in the north of France, in Dunkirk, or in Lesbos. We need translators, Farsi speakers, Arabic speakers, desperately. And we also need, obviously, financial support. We have a website called Insaaf, INSAAF.org.uk.
Okay, and all the information that people need about how they can support you is on the website. When is your next trip?
So we're going to Dunkirk every weekend during Ramadan, inshallah, to provide food. And we're going to Lesbos again in August, inshallah.
And here's a picture we have of your last trip. Let's show the audience all the viewers, all the wonderful stuff you do. Oh, look at that, mashallah.
That's the group in Lesbos?
Yes, that's the port where refugees have been deported. So
for anyone who wants to get in touch, insaaf.org.uk is where people can get all the information.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mala. Bless you so much. Barakah with all the great work that you do.
Absolutely.
Kimberley.
Yes, well, Koolamundo is going to be starting its first animated show this year.
Wow. Hey,
which I'm really excited.
Can I be in it?
Oh, of course.
Can I be the evil duck?
Is that what you'd like to be?
I would love to.
Your beard isn't big enough.
Yeah, he's got the beard going. He's got it going, yeah.
And if we wanted to find out more about the work that you do, where should we go?
Yes, we have a website. It's www.koolamundo.com, and we're also on YouTube. I also have Twitter, and please look out for us because there will be another 4 or 5 more books coming this year, and I will also be having books translated into Arabic.
Hey, that'll be phenomenal. And
yes.
we've also, hopefully, we'll be giving away some books as well.
Yeah, definitely.
To one lucky individual who's going to be answering questions on Twitter, correct?
Yes.
That would be wonderful.
It's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I had
thank
a wonderful
you to
time.
everybody.
Thank
We've had a great panel of guests today.
And big thank you to you all and for you watching at home.
Yes, and as ever, you can stay with us on Twitter at Islam Channel with the hashtag LTL, where, of course, you can get a book. And don't forget, your favourite clips are on YouTube.
Absolutely. Living life will, of course, be back tomorrow. But then, until then, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How wonderful.
Living the life. Living the life. Living the life. Living the life.